It's all don't forget. Don't do it. You got to call me. You have that time.
Just to confirm,
Got it.
you'd like to
All right, we are good to go, so we will go ahead and call the September 27, 2022 meeting of the Lehigh Northampton Airport Authority Board of Governors to order. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If I could ask everyone to please rise. I pledge allegiance to the
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Sylvette, could you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Paul Anthony,
Here.
Robert Brooks.
Here.
Frank Facciano,
Present.
Don Godshaw, Justin Grimshaw,
Here.
John Hayes,
Here.
Ron Heckman,
Here.
Larry Hemberger,
Present.
James Irwin, Jeff Maskin, Glenn Riebman,
Present.
Mike Stershik,
Here.
Matt Turk, Chris Worley,
Here.
Tara Zirinsky,
She was up there.
It's on the screen. You're muted, Tara.
I'm here.
Thank you. We have a quorum, sir.
Okay, thank you. Next, do we have any public comment?
We do not.
Okay, we have public. Do you have any comment? Okay, thanks, guys. Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the August 30th, 2022 meeting. They were circulated via email. I'd entertain a motion to approve. Motion by Glenn, second by Ron. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor of the subject motion indicate by saying go Birds.
Go Birds.
Opposed? Dallas stinks. Get that in. For those of us who are Eagles fans, we're on the same bus. Those of you who aren't, get on the bus because it's leaving the platform. And yes, I checked Super Bowl tickets already. Okay, next we have reports of committees, officers, and staff. First is the treasurer's report, so I'll turn it over to Todd.
Sure, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Let's just say it's here by nighttime. You know it's the light out. Always start off with the traffic. We talked about this in our committee meetings, but we had August was our third month in a row that we had 90+ thousand of traffic. And we've had 90+ thousand of traffic 6 times in roughly the last 10 years. So that tells you that that's a good number. 3 of them were this year, 1 in 2021, and 2 in 2019 in the last 10 years. Compare our seats and our throughput to all airports. You can see we're a little bit below where all airports are. We're at minus 1.8 in seats, and seats for all airports are pretty close to even. But compared to our peers, we're doing quite well. We're, again, down -2 in seats. The peers are down on average minus 20. Compare us down to Harrisburg, their seats are down 17%, and Scranton is down 39%.
What's going on up in White Plains that caused their seats to much than they did?
I'll let Darren answer that question.
I think they've added service with Breeze, I believe, that was a big one they added though on the new carriers.
Okay.
Month of August. Month of August was a decent month. We collected a bunch of cares in August, so obviously we have positive income. But we're always keeping an eye on where we are with and without cares, because at some point we're going to have to maintain things without cares as we kind of rebound. Our rebound has been mostly on traffic, a little faster than we thought, but again, that cares is helpful and it's in our budget. So you can see that our number was, we had 1.5, so we had 444,000 without cares, and we collected 1.1 million in cares for the month of August. Year to date, again, you can see that net income is about 5.8 million. Again, we've collected a pretty good number without cares. We're still at 3 million without cares. Our budget was actually a negative net income, and I think it's important to point that out as we go into next year's budget and we start talking about that in the next few months, you know, we would be talking a different discussion as we go into next year's budget if we hadn't had that recovery that we're having now. Because again, that net income year-to-date is negative without CARES. Big part of the reason that we're ahead of budget is on our expense side. We budget, remember, I know you're probably tired of hearing me saying it, is the budget of integrity. We put in all those positions when we did that updated budget last year in August, and we kind of rolled it all the way in to 2022's budget, and that's a big variance there. But that gap, and we talked about this in the committee, is getting smaller. Okay? But you see the non-personnel, and we're really starting to see it in some of the maintenance and repairs and utilities in particular, that those numbers are really starting to go up. You can see the non-personnel expenses are pretty close to budget, where prior to this month, we had a pretty good spread there. Kind of look at those large budgetary variances again. You know, we got all variances are, you know, 3.3 million, and a big portion of that is 1.4 of salaries. Again, those are extra body counts that we haven't filled yet, and the extra revenue that we received on aviation services because our recovery was faster than we expected. Same thing with parking and some of the other things there.
How many open positions do we have now? 12.
We have, I think we have about, I think there's about, it's over 40. It's over 40. But a lot of them, most of them are part-time. Any questions?
I think you skipped the days on hand slide.
Oh, you got me talking so fast there, John. It's all focused there. Days cash on hand, we always push it out for a year. That black line, for folks that aren't familiar, is our 60 days cash on hand, and that is over and above reserves and contingencies. And that's kind of our bare bones minimum that we want to maintain as far as cash. You can see we're above 200, and I'm actually basing it on the 65. Our number for this year was about 59. As we go into next year's budget, as a placeholder, we put 65,000 on there just to kind of figure out where we would be for next year. So again, it's still early, but it's hard to, at this point, we don't want to look at 59,000. We want to look at where we think we're going to be for next year, because we're talking about a 12-month period. Any questions?
Do you have any questions for Todd? Okay, hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to accept the finance report. A motion by Mike. I'll second. Second by Paul. Any questions? Already asked that question. All those in favor of the subject motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, next, Finance Committee. Frank.
Right, you're gonna get Todd
Right
back
back
up
to
here
Todd.
to discuss the municipal obligation and the pension actuarial.
So we'll
change.
put everything together and talk about some of the changes, and I know we're excited to kind of put our pension in a better position and some of the changes we're talking about here. So this is kind of a recap. I know John spoke. He spoke both at our workshop. We had a workshop for people that know.
This is John Kateski.
John Contesti is our financial investor for our pension, and he's also our consultant and helps us with our defined contribution plan. So we had a workshop internally for our representatives from the non-union, retirees, and the unions, and we also streamed it just to kind of have kind of a Q&A for people to ask a lot of questions on the pension so that people can really get an understanding of what we're trying to do good things for the plan. Especially, you know, we talked about, I know Paul had brought up about target date funds a few months. We wanted to have that discussion where people could ask some of those questions. And we talked about some of the assumptions, because that is key to making sure this plan is funded long-term. So this is kind of the overall slide, and I picked a few. I'm doing my best John Kateski impersonation, probably not that great, but you can see that for the last 10 years, even with the last downturn, we were averaging 7.1% return, and our actuarial assumption is 7.5%. We were well over 100% funded at the end of last year, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. And our goal is to kind of maintain that 40th percentile. We don't want to be too high or too low. We want to kind of be in the middle so that we can maintain that long term. And obviously, we want to maintain low fees, because that's a big part of us maintaining that good return there. Do I have to hit the other button? There you go. And this is kind of one of John's keys of things we can control and things we can't control. The fact is we can control are what we focus on with our internally, return, objectives, types of investment, making sure we got low fees. And then when you have that outside person, one of the things it does help you do is that last item is emotions and behaviors. It's interesting when you have your own money, when the market's going down, you get a little bit nervous. Then when you have somebody else say, don't worry about it, it's okay. So that's good to kind of maintain that. And obviously there's certain things that we can't control, certainly in the short term, but that's just kind of one of the slides that I wanted to show up there. This is kind of where we were through the end of August 31st. You can see that year to date there, and they're both the plans are pretty close to the same, and there's some minor differences, but they're pretty close to the same investments. But we're down a little over 14% on both plans. Union's down 14.3. I think the top one, that's a typo. The bottom one should be non-union there where it says LNAA, non-union plan. That should be minus 14.1, and then the top is 14.3 negative. That's where we were through August. And you can see kind of 10 years, that 7.1 that we talked about there, and some of the other factors. 5 years, 5.9, but 7.1 over a 10-year period. And this is kind of some of the things we're talking about when we talk about changes, and it really kind of puts things in perspective. At the end of last year, we were, for both plans, we were 112% funded. So we were overfunded with assuming a 7.5% return. We've had a lot of discussions about maintaining that 7.5% long-term, and we want to make sure that the plan is in good standings. So we had some internal meetings, and one of the things we're recommending is to lower the rate of return from 7.5 to 7.25. Now, when you lower the return, you also are adjusting the salary assumptions as well. There's a couple of assumptions to go with that. There's a 3% spread on the salaries and the rate of return and the salary. So that is 7.5% return assumes that salaries are going to go up 4.5%. So that's just an assumption. So it assumes you have to project out to what you think the person is at age 65 and then how long they're going to live. If anyone who wants to know that, I think it's about 19 years at age 65, somewhere around there. So that's kind of what you're doing. You're doing an assumption of how long a person is going to live at age 65 and then how much you're going to return to pay their specific benefit based on the schedule. And the schedule does change based on wages. So that's why it's important to do these assumptions. So what you can kind of see, and then we also want to use the updated mortality tables. So we were using the 2000 mortality tables that were projected up. We want to use the 2010, which is the latest mortality tables, which show people living longer, which obviously means a bigger obligation on the pension. But with those changes and the reduction in the market, this is just an assumption that we would go from 112 at the end of 2021 to, at the end of August of this year, 84%. But again, that's making some of these changes that are going to put us in a good position long term. These things, ebbs and flows always happen. And the last time we made this change was unfortunately when the market went down. So we just seem to time these things. When the market goes down, we're going to make a change. But these are long-term changes. And like I said before, normally when you make these changes, you don't go the other way. That's part of the reason that we want to do these things slow. And this change will impact the 2024 and 2025 MMO. That'll be the first time. So these changes will go into effect when we do our evaluation on 1/1/23. So there's an evaluation done every 2 years, and that's for the next 2 years MMO. And this will be what we use it on based on the 7.25 and the 4.25 and the updated mortality tables. So that's one of the suggestions or recommendations that we're recommending to the board that we make that change. And you can see there, just to kind of get an idea, the pension valuation was 8.8 at the end of December of last year, and you can see at the end of August it was 15.8. So that's just a change in the market right there. You can see that the two green items kind of tell you what's going on, things that we can't control for sure. And this is our MMO for 2023. Oh, all right. Thanks, guys. Take care of us. This is our MMO, And when I say MMO, it's a minimum municipal obligation, what we're required to pay for the pension based on our evaluation that was done 1/1/21. So that was done for 1/1/21, so that was based on the 2021 and the 2022 and 2023 MMO. You can see what that is and the total contribution. And we're also recommending doing some extra contributions, which kind of, what we've tried to do the last few years is contribute at a higher level on a voluntary basis. And by lowering the rate of return, some of that will be kind of automatic, and we won't have to make these extra contributions. But again, it's always trying to be good stewards of the pension to make sure that it's funded long-term, because we've made these commitments to employees. We want to make sure it's there. So it's 846 with the extra contribution, and we did this year's. And one of the things that we did is we also, because we have some employees that are in the defined contribution plan, they also get an extra contribution when we make an extra contribution in another one. So that's all built in now. So you can just kind of see at the bottom there what's been happening since 2016 with the MMO and our overall contribution. You can see that in 2016, we were below 400,000 that we paid in contributions, total contributions to the pension, and you can see it spiked up in 2018, some of that based on our funding level and some of the extra contributions we made in 2018 to over $1 million, and then for the last, I don't know, since 19, we've been in the 800, close to 800 range, and we tried to stay at that level, even though we could have paid less. So that's one of the things we've done. So I think that, and this is the letter that Tom does, that just kind of talked about the MMO, the official letter. And I know it's a lot there. Any questions? Everybody's falling asleep on that stuff?
Not all of us. Okay, let's go order by order. So first, we'll ask for a motion to approve the 2023 MMO. So motion by Frank, second by Mike. Okay, discussion. I've got one point I wanted to make, and actually ties to both, so I'll talk about it now. As Todd had pointed out, we've been making a voluntary contribution over and above the MMO for many years. And the reason for that is a discussion that we've had in many years as well, that in some opinion, and I share this opinion, that 7.5% assumed annual rate of return is too high. Now, 7.5 is actually, I think, Ron, the percentage that the county uses on its pension obligations, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Glenn Geisinger, who preceded you, had made that point years ago when we talked about it. But knowing the risk of a 7.5% return, we've made the additional contribution so we can make sure that the pensions remain appropriately funded. That is, to me, one of the most important jobs we've got as a board, is to make sure that we're in a position to honor our commitment to all of our employees. And we've all seen the horrors of underfunded pension plans. No one wants to land there. I like the move of 7.5 to 7.25. I've made that motion that no one would second every year for 7 years now. Because it more appropriately recognizes the risk associated with long-term returns. And we're living in a bloodbath right now in the market. We've bear market for stocks. Bonds have had the worst year since 1949. I looked it up. It's been since 1949. So yeah, last year everybody wanted to look at their 401ks because, oh, look, I made another $500 today. Now no one's looking because they lost another $500 today. We've got to have a plan that's in position that we can ride those waves because they're going to happen. And the market will recover and it will rebound over the long term. It's shown. But 7.25 is a more realistic long-term rate. I think it's even still a hair high, but I got one. I probably won't argue the other. But it will impact our ability to make voluntary contributions simply because now, as Todd said, it's going to go into the required number as opposed to the voluntary number. We're always going to look to do additional monies into the pension plan, though, to make sure that we keep it appropriately funded. So we always want to keep that topic on the table, but it was $237,000, if I remember correctly?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Our economics will determine what additionally we can put in over and above. But I like the fact that we're lowering the annual assumed rate and fixing that. We're a good board. We've got a good management team. We're doing it on a voluntary basis. We don't know who's going to be sitting here 3 years from now or 5 years from now, and they may not look at it like it's something that they want to do. This locks it in. The only way to go back the other way is to increase the assumed rate of return, and that's a tough sell.
Yeah, that's very done.
Yep, exactly. So I am wholeheartedly in favor of the pension, the actuarial changes. I had to talk about it as part of the MMO because they do relate. So, but it's been a topic on the table a lot. Ron?
I just want to say, yeah, you mentioned the county. I sit on the retirement board. We've our advisors pretty much echo that, you know, where we're at now, and given everything, you know, and not just in the country, world, but to ride it, you know, to stay solid, not worry so much about the rate. Because yes, we're going through, we just don't know how long we're going through it. Eventually we'll be through it, but.
Yep.
But yeah, you're right, it does mirror what's being done, at least at the county. Just don't let the state talk you into putting your money in their pension.
Do you have any other comments before I call for vote on the MMO contribution?
I agree with you, John. It's an important move.
Okay, all those,
Do you have anything to complain about in the future?
I'll find something. The egregious stormwater tax is still on the table.
I think that's what he's talking about.
All those in favor of the subject motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the actuarial changes to the pension. Motion by Matt, second by Mike. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the subject motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, and we have no business committee report this month, correct?
We do not.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next is your report, Tom, director's report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So as we talked about in Todd's report, traffic for August, a very good month, over 90,000 passengers, 13.5% increase. When we take a look at how that sort of relates to 2019, because I always go back to 2019 as kind of our base year, and we can see that we were still 2.5% up over our August 2019 numbers. So still a very good trend there. Looking at September, sort of month to date, how we're trending there. Nationally, TSA's traffic is down about 4.7%. ABE up versus September of 19, 2.5%. So still looking good in terms of our passenger traffic.
Good to see Allegiant strong, but good to see the legacy carriers bounce back a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Continuing to see some encouragement there, but still, as you point out, still a lot of road ahead of us. So, or runway, as the case may be. Wanted to provide a quick update on Hurricane Ian. Allegiant Air service from ABE to Florida. Connie, and correct me, I know it's changing by the minute, I think, but looks like our service to Florida is pretty much scrubbed through maybe Friday at this point, or at least Friday midday.
Definitely, all of tomorrow and Thursday, and now we're starting to look at Friday. So
Right.
I think altogether we had about 7 cancellations, arrivals and departures, so 14 cancellations.
Right. So certainly service on the legacy carriers to Florida facing the same thing. I know just a couple of notes, St. Pete Clearwater Airport closed today at 1 o'clock earlier. Sanford, Orlando, and Tampa both closed at 5 o'clock, just about an hour or so ago. And we've got Sarasota, Bradenton, and Orlando International closing tonight.
May I interject for a question on that
Absolutely,
topic? Is that-
sure.
Is that, because I looked at the path, are we looking at Charleston? I mean, I don't know how much it's gonna lose potency as it goes.
As it moves up, and that still remains the
Okay.
$1 million question. But at this point, nobody's talking about when exactly they're reopening, but just kind of closing and shutting down operations at this point. So we'll continue to watch that. Obviously, we encourage people to go to our website or their airline's website for travel information. But just did want to, would be remiss if I didn't mention that. Since our last board meeting, August 30th, on September 9th, we had Phillips Armstrong was here to do his Friday podcast, and we had him out into the Terminal Connector project, so we got to do a little broadcast and kind of peek behind the curtain, if you will, as part of that, so that was fun. On September 10th, we actually participated with Western Salisbury Volunteer Fire Company. They had a community day, and it was great to get out to the community. It's important for us to do that. We were excited to be part of that event.
Just to jump back to Phil for a second, just to give you an idea, his social media outreach is between 5,000 and 6,000 views per week for the video clips that he puts out. So being on that gets out to a lot of people.
Yeah, so it was fun to do. It was a little loud, but it was great. There was a lot of construction going on.
Phil's entertaining too, so that helps.
September 12th through the 14th, LNAA staff participated with Miller Keystone Blood Center. We did a bunch of blood donations. A number of staff participated in that, so we continue to do that. It's a great partnership. September 18th, I know some of us attended the Equilibrium event, the polo match down at Braden, so that continued, rain or shine, right? So we had a pretty good turnout down there. And this week, we've got TSA pre-check. So if you're interested in open enrollment, that's happening this week in the RV that they have out in our long-term parking lot. This coming week, it will be in the main terminal. So you can sign up, you can get information on our website if you're interested in getting your pre-check. You can do that at flyab.com. In terms of upcoming events, October 1st, we were informed that the United Newark shuttle is now going to be operated by Landline, which is the same company that operates the American shuttle. So instead of 20 seats, it'll be a 35-seat motor coach, just like American. We assume it'll be branded with their livery and all the same. So that'll start, I guess, Saturday.
Any progress to getting Americans bus behind the security line?
I haven't heard anything this week. Darren, anything
Every
new?
time we talk to them, it's coming. That's
Okay.
all. That's, last I heard, they'd submitted everything. They addressed all TSA comments and submitted. So they were expecting it any day. That was about a month ago, probably.
So they've never said it's not coming.
They've never said it's not
No,
coming.
I think they're still working through it, and, let's face it, getting TSA to do something very, very different is a challenge, I think.
So right now, they drop you off and you have to go through their
You have to go through the security
They're
filter.
doing screening at those other airports, so.
Yeah, the hope is to get it treated like a flight. You would go out, get it out at the gate, take it to a gate there, you're through everything already.
So it sounds like that's still in the works as far as we know, and that's unfortunately as much as I can offer today. Customer Appreciation Week, October 3rd through the 7th. We're working with our tenants, stakeholders, passengers. We're having great events planned, so that'll be a fun week. We always look forward to that. October 6th, we'll have the Chambers Transportation Committee coming for a tour of the Connector Project, so that'll be fun to kind of walk through that with the Transportation Committee. On October 26th, staff will participate in the Lehigh Valley Academy Career Fair. So we try to get out to a number of those career fairs as often as possible. And last two items I wanted to point out just to note for our schedules, October committee meetings, a little bit different schedule for October and November. So committee meetings Monday, the day before board, so October 24th, with board meeting on the 25th, Tuesday. And after our board meeting in October, we'll have another project tour if folks are interested in that. And then November, committee and board will be a week apart, so we'll have our committee meetings the 22nd, which is Tuesday, prior to Thanksgiving, and then we'll come back a week later on Tuesday the 29th after we've had turkey or whatever you enjoy, and we'll have our board meeting. So just notes for your calendar. I think we have that sent out to you, but just wanted to remind folks it's a little different schedule for October and November. And with that, that concludes my report. Happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Tom. Ron?
Vacancies, where are we at with that?
So I think, Todd, you talked about the number at this point.
I think we said that we have, it's somewhere around 40 something.
Oh,
40 or so vacancies.
It's at least 40, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for Tom? Okay, thanks, Tom. Good report.
Okay.
Okay, next is the solicitor's report. Attorney Markheim.
Thank you, Chairman. So this month, we've been working on some landlord-tenant matters. Nothing too extraordinary in that regard, just some collections, terminations for office space and smaller spaces. A new land lease agreement for a sign by Queen City. There was also a subpoena directed to the airport authority for a case in which it's not involved, but involving a prior contractor. So my office did review the response before that went out. The private road with Allen Township, that agreement regarding Rockefeller property is ongoing and not completed. And then regarding the stormwater case, there was an oral argument in similar case. The reason why the airport authority's case against the city of Allentown is currently stayed was to see the outcome of the Borough of Westchester versus, it's the Pennsylvania Association Higher Education Organization, but regarding Westchester University. And I attended the oral argument there, and it's something I would recommend executive session to further discuss that litigation. Just see if there's anything else to say. So there's no decision yet in the Westchester case, but once we have a decision there, the argument was on cross motions for summary judgment, which means you're asking the court to rule on the state of the case just based on legal questions. So once they rule on that, we'll have some guidance as to how the court may look at the airport authority's case against the city of Allentown.
Okay, thank you. We will take that discussion up under exec session. Okay, anything else? Any questions for Attorney Marcon? Okay, thank you. Next, before we go into executive session, is new business. I do have one matter, but I wanted to open it up to the floor first. See if anyone had anything they wanted to bring before the board. Okay, question I've got is, should we continue to do this one meeting per year at 5 o'clock? Now, it's funny that we had two guys here from the firefighters union because we've been doing this meeting at 5 o'clock for about 10 or so years, and we hadn't had anybody show. The reason why we did the 5 o'clock meeting was to give people the opportunity, if the public wanted to come to a meeting but couldn't make a meeting at noon, to give people an opportunity to be here. So until tonight, we haven't had anyone attend. We do have all of our Board of Governor meetings live streamed on Facebook. We have all of our committee meetings live streamed on Facebook. Anyone is able to write a comment to the Board of Governors, which we read into the record and answer as appropriate. So I think we do a good job of making sure that we're open and transparent. I wanted to throw it out to the group to see what the thoughts are, whether we should continue the annual meeting at 5 o'clock or move it to noon for lack of participation and openness otherwise. So
I agree. I don't think we need to have the evening meeting. I think it works better to keep them consistent, and it's just makes more sense that way. It just,
Yeah, I agree. It's the intent is to provide accessibility, which we provide just since we decided to do it at 5, there's all kinds of accessibility electronically, so.
Yep.
I don't care either way. I can just tell you, those guys aren't here because it was a 5 o'clock meeting. You know what I mean? I'm just, the public that we had here tonight was not here because it was a 5 o'clock meeting.
Yep. No, that's what I said. I'm sorry they left. I did talk to them for a couple of minutes before the meeting. And they said they do like watching them. They're happy that we live stream them, so they do watch them, which is good. That's why we do it. We want to make sure. And Colin, remember, we want to bring in our penetration statistics on social media. So we'll do that at the, if you can do it at the next meeting, that'd be great. Yep. Other thoughts and other comments? Anybody on the phone or Zoom, any comments? Tara, Justin, all right, I don't see Chris anymore. Is Chris gone?
Doesn't look like he's
Okay.
I have none, John, but I'm okay with the 12 o'clock meeting. I'll be honest with you, 5 o'clock is kind of rough for me some nights, so.
Yep. Okay, Tara, any thoughts?
Muted, Tara.
Okay. No, she's actually not muted. She's not listening. Now she's muted. Okay, I think the consensus of the table, I don't think we need a motion on this at all, is to move all the meetings to 12 o'clock, and we'll forego going forward the 5 o'clock meeting. So put that into effect for next year.
We'll do that.
Okay, good. Any other new business before? Yes, Glenn?
I just have a question. You want to, we're gonna get rid of the 5 o'clock meeting. Was there ever any thought of moving the noon meetings to all meetings in the morning like we have?
Not that I'm aware of.
That hasn't come up.
Yep.
Wonder if that's something we could think about, maybe, not for tonight, but just to think about.
Yep, put, good thought to raise. I know a number of people have talked about the 5 o'clock meeting over the last month or so since it was on the calendar. So let's everybody give that some thought, and we can come back to that at the next meeting. Okay, any other thoughts before we go to exec session? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to move to executive session. Moved by Mike,
I
second
just
by
want to point, I will probably leave executive session for the portion related to the stormwater fee.
Yep.
And or tax.
Yep. And we're not going to have any votes coming out of it, and it'll be the end of the meeting after that. So we'll save that for last in
Yeah,
exec
just so
session.
the public knows I'm going to be leaving that portion of the session.
Yep, good point, thank you. Okay, all those in favor of the subject motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and we'll wait for Colin to give us the sign. What's the discussions there?
The board took executive session to discuss litigation strategy in the Lehigh Northampton Airport Authority versus City of Allentown stormwater case. During the discussion, no deliberations, decisions, or votes occurred.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have anything else to bring before the board tonight? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved, we're good. Everyone, thank you very much. Have a great night, and we'll see you all at committee meetings next month.
Thank you, John.
I'm not going to be at the committee meetings next month, so I'm going to get you my